This episode of UK Low Carb Podcast is sponsored by Deliciously Guilt-Free. Enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special show because this is the second birthday of UK Low Carb. And so I've always got a bit of a commitment with somebody. The first episode I ever recorded was in February 2020. And it was with Nikola Howard. And I said to her, would she come back for my first birthday? And she has. And would she come back for my second birthday? She has. So here she is again. Welcome back to the podcast, Nikola Howard. Good to see you.
Oh, it is so good to be here. And I'm very much looking forward to catching up, seeing what we've done in the last year. And my God, was it really 2020? That was like before the world. It was before the world changed.
It was, and I think it was a little bit in the news in the February about this thing in China, because I remember there's an Italian guy I knew at the time, and he said when it came to Italy that his family were affected and what that was like for him, and how we kind of knew, I think in early March it was on its way, and then suddenly it all just hit like a tidal wave going over us, didn't it? And life's never been the same since, really. Yeah. And then I think the episode went out on the 27th of March, something like that. So. Yeah, it's around this time that it was the birthday. So who would have thought 2 years on, this podcast is still going, eh? Just like limping on.
And not limping, you're a double award winner, my love. Pat yourself on the back.
Well, I didn't want to bring that up, but if you insist.
I totally insist.
Thank you. That was a bit crazy. I mean, I kind of thought, okay, so let's just talk about last year firstly, because that's the anomaly, right? That's the one that's a little bit odd. Last year I won the comedy award at the same kind of group event thing, which is only because they had different categories. And I thought, well, you put a podcast episode in. I didn't realize it was an award for the whole show. So I put this very funny episode in with the Keto Dudes, thinking, well, that is quite a funny one. If that show wins that, then fair enough. So then when I got told I'm the best comedy podcast, I was like, what? My podcast isn't a comedy podcast. Like, in fact, what we're talking about is deadly serious. You can do it in a fun way, but it's a very serious topic. So that was kind of a bit shocking. And so this year I learned my lesson. I thought, well, I'll enter, the health and well-being. I'll enter into the best interview, something like that. And I kind of thought that because they're chosen by judges, if you're talking about healthy fats and low carb, it's a bit niche, it's a bit out there. And unfortunately, a lot of people maybe wouldn't get that, which is fine, whatever, but you've got to be in it to win it. I never expected, though, that the Listener's Choice Award would be won by this podcast and that people voted for it, which means infinitely more to me, the fact that listeners have just rallied behind this and done that. So, yeah, it's really humbling and that's amazing.
I think also over Listener's Choice. Well, I don't even know how many people that was, but that's not just people that are in our community. That's people of all walks of life, possibly all over the world, have voted you their choice. And quite frankly, I never thought proud to be part of it, but I'm so proud of you for having grown this thing. For giving me a platform, but for giving the whole of this a platform. It's awesome.
Well, you know what? So I kind of realized when I started listening to podcasts, probably in like 2017, 18, something like that. And I was listening to low carb ones and they all had a very particular focus. They would have an expert come on, do their teaching, which is great. And I think there's a definite place for that. And I love those things. But actually to say, let's go a little bit behind that and just get a bit more personal and with an expert, but also with people who've never been on a podcast. In some cases, some of my guests have never listened to a podcast. It's new to them. But to say, like, let's just be a bit more vulnerable, a bit more human, which I know we're going to do in this conversation as well, and be real people. So, bring your knowledge, bring your experience, but also be yourself and be open to the fact that we can just talk about life and reality. And I think there was a gap for that I saw. And I thought, that's a podcast I would like because I never turn up to the show as the expert ever. I'm always the person who's like my listener asking the questions. And I'm quite honest, like I did a video today about how I had a bit of a suboptimal, as you'd say, choice last night. And I've decided to own it, to see what it was, and then to not let it affect me today and to move on. And I think, I'm willing to share those more because I feel like people do it with me. So it's that kind of thing where the relationship's built up for 2 years.
Yeah, because we are human and human is not perfect.
Yeah.
I love like twisting that dynamic. The whole practice makes progress. Remove perfection out of the window totally.
That's
and
nice.
done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And perfection is the enemy of done, turning it around the other way. Those are sort of 3 phrases that I know I live by. And I know that done is better than perfect is like the 4th unofficial tenet of my 3 tenets. So it's because
just adding these, are you like 27 of them now?
Yeah, probably. But it's that whole sentiment of keeping on. You make a suboptimal choice or a non-optimal choice. That's just life.
Yeah.
As long as you are mostly being awesome to yourself, eating good, great, fantastic, optimal nutrition, getting what sunlight we might be given at some point in the UK or wherever you are in the world, getting out in the fresh air, doing the things that promote overall health. If you happen to pick something that is not great for you one time, what's the big deal? There is no big deal. You're a human and you can make an empowered choice, as we know, as I have often. So I'm going to get off my soapbox.
No, I think it's right. And I think forgiveness and empathy to yourself and a bit of compassion is actually a really important thing. You know, I've seen myself, I mean, after our series we made last year, I really kind of picked up on actually, you know, the spiritual dynamic, which I never really looked into that side of me for a long time. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to treat myself like I treat my kids, I'm going to try and parent myself and look after these elements and step back from me and just think, what is right for this body? What does it need? Actually, you know what, it's right now to make this body go to bed. Not thinking, do I want to stay up and have fun and like watch videos, whatever. Actually, I have to be sensible and I think that's quite a nice way of looking at it. And the thing is, though, it's really interesting this. I was talking to somebody recently and I said, why is it when you're following a plan like this and you know, there is a suboptimal choice, many of us then sort of do that again and again and again afterwards. Almost like if you fell off a bike, you wouldn't then start hitting yourself with a stick the day after. Like you try and let yourself heal and get over it again. But for some reason, the psychology of food is not like that. And you can get into these cycles of, well, screw it. And all the success is thrown out the window. I've ruined it, whatever. I may as well just eat this rubbish now. What a weird narrative we tell ourselves.
Well,
and I've done that.
We talked a lot about that in that 2nd episode, in the mind episode, where we are trained to think a certain way. And as a society, we've trained ourselves that we beat ourselves up with food, we reward ourselves with food, we do all manner of things that are nothing to do with nourishing the body. We do a lot about effectively entertaining our mouth and keeping our brains quiet with food. And so being able to start to objectively look at those messages and go, this bunch of hooey here, not serving me, but knowing that you can never really throw it away, but you can acknowledge that, oh, it's that thing again. Right. Okay. I hear you now. Cough. Go away. And just, it is one of those things that people think, and we're also very focused on the journey of weight loss. You know how much I hate those words. But we're focused on the journey. We are this big, we want to be that small, and that's the entirety of what we do. No one talks about, well, when you are that small, what do you do next?
Which I think is exactly the diet industry's problem. Well, that's more than just that, obviously, but that is a big problem. The amount of people I've seen, it's really quite sad, who have gone very extreme low calorie. They've had then the body they're aiming for, and then the day after that, it's the weight starts coming back because it's like, where do I go with this? I can't starve myself forever. And so they have to, their body will then start going, well, come on then, mate, you've been starving us now. And I've seen that happen with these yo-yo diets, and it's so cruel. And I think it's so cruel that people think that's what they have to do. And the other thing as well, I was going to say on that, which really gets me, when you understand that making body fat is actually an evolutionary process that we all have. You know, I'm reading this amazing book at the moment about evolution and health, and it said, you know, out of all the apes, the human is the only one that's exceptionally adapted to making fat. And its reason it does that is to feed its brain. The brain needs all the energy. But when you understand that actually fat accumulation is a hormonal thing, but as a society, we still see it as a moral thing, you realize, well, some people might be hormonally, well, obviously different at 20 than they will be in their 50s or their 60s. Some people will be men and some people will be women with a different hormonal balance going on. So let's give people a break. Like, I don't get this quite nasty, and I've faced that a bit this year, this quite nasty approach sometimes people have, as if it's just your macros or it's just your calories. No, let's look at the whole picture. And I think that's what I've tried to do a bit more, and you help me with that, is to bring out the idea of health, about stress, about how we talk to ourselves, the psychology behind it, and all these things. I think it is so much bigger than I ever realized when I started the podcast, when I was looking more at macros and stuff.
So totally. I mean, you're talking about, I did the whole low calorie thing when I was 16, because I was a big teenager, got to target weight, and basically then just gained it all back, plus another 3 or 4. And it's that whole, we aren't looking at it, and where we start then being judged by our physical appearance, and that's a whole, I mean, that's a topic we could do all by us, all in a thing. A separate episode. Thank you, brain. But where we are going with people look at us and they judge us, and I know you're talking about the whole, somebody remarked that you aren't thin yet, how can you be a representative? I've had the same. I will freely put my hand up, and I'm not thin yet. There has been times when I'm thinking I'm not thin because, okay, this might be where I end up. But accepting that as well. If that's where my body wants to end up, that's cool. But I also believe that I will become smaller. But it comes back to hormones and balance. I was watching YouTube, as you do, and I watch, what the hell is the name of the channel? How Ridiculous. They throw things off of things, shoot things, smash things. It is a very kinetic, physical, and it's a bunch of 3 Australians who are just like really funny. And they were talking about, oh God, what were they talking about? My brain has just completely lost the thread of my story.
It sounds like an amazing channel to me.
Oh, How Ridiculous is fantastic. Oh yes, one of the Pearsons is called Derek, and they were sponsored by one of the DNA people. I can't remember which one it was. Okay. And it gave them the result of what type of appetite control do you have from your DNA. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think you could measure that at all, but apparently the person that they asked this, it was basically a bonus question of, if you get the guess right, we give you a double multiplier on whatever they were doing. And he basically, have you got low control, medium control, or high control? And he guessed, oh yeah, I've probably got low control because he's not a thin chap. And it was like, yeah, you've got a lower appetite control. It's like, how the hell do they tell that from DNA? And no one is acknowledging that maybe your DNA is actually stacked against you in terms of where we are with food, and given also the food landscape of carbohydrate encourages you to shove it in your face like there is no tomorrow. We've created this hyperpalatable food. So the people that are blessed, cursed with that set of DNA, they are inevitably going to be fat.
Wow. And interesting.
And we don't even acknowledge things like that because it's all so simple. It's, as you say, it's a moral choice of, oh, if you're fat, you've stuffed your face.
Yeah, there's greed. That's what it comes from. Yeah, I agree. And fecklessness as well. It's interesting. This book that I'm reading at the moment was saying that in America, the whole antibiotics for cattle isn't just about trying to kill diseases because they're in terrible conditions. They're also trying to kill the cow's microbiome a little bit, because there's some parts of its microbiome that mean it doesn't put on as much weight. And so they actually know that. And so they're trying to kill the microbiome off a little bit. And it made me think, well, actually, gut health's a major part of this too. We've got we've got a city inside of us full of microbes who are processing and eating that food and doing stuff with it. Your microbiome and somebody else's can be very different, and that can have a massive impact as well. And I guess that's related to your genes as well, your microbiome. So there's all this connected, isn't there? There's that famous study, isn't there?
Yeah, and you've also got a monkey's brain's worth, as in quantity, of neurons in your guts. And the microbiome talks to those neurons. Those neurons talk up to the main brain, although you could say it's all one brain, because there's also some neurons in your heart as well. And so they're all connected. So your microbiome has a direct brain interface, essentially, as do your eyes are part of your brain. And it's a really fascinating thing around it. Everybody's biome is different. We've adapted over millennia to work with our biome. It produces B vitamins, it produces D vitamins, it produces butyrates to give us energy. It does a whole bunch of wonderful, amazing things for us, as well as can be, if it goes a bit wonky, then start to drag us down. We are only just starting to scratch the surface of that. And as you say, every gut biome is different. And if you're, and they literally with the horrible subject, the coprolitic subject of gut feces transplants, when they repopulate you after having a C. diff, they clean you out totally, and then they put someone else's poo inside you to redevelop your own biome, even though it's not yours anymore. But what they've actually shown is that if they put a thin person's fecal transplant into a fatter person, they start to get thinner.
Yeah.
And the other way around as well. So your gut biome is actually stacked for or against you beyond anything else.
There was actually a mother and daughter, I think, and the mother was very slim. The daughter had more body fat, and they thought because they're the same family, it'd be the best, like fecal exchange, whatever you call it, transplant to do. And actually, the mother started putting on the weight very rapidly, not changed her diet one bit. So there's all these things. And actually, of course, we know that the foods we eat affect our microbiome too. So, Graham Phillips talks about this a lot, and how different preservatives and things, we don't know what it's doing to our gut. If they're modern food, you've always got a little bit be a bit careful, haven't you, as to what that's going to be doing to you in the future, pesticides and all those things.
That's coming back to what, again, the ecological health episode we did around looking at where your stuff is coming from. That whole, did it come from a farm? Is it off of a tree, off of an animal, out of an animal, under a ground, off of a bush? If you can trace it back to where it came from, like within 1 or 2 steps, and it's recognizable, it's probably food. If it's coming in a box with a list of ingredients this long, most of which you don't recognize, it ain't food.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing that worries me with keto. So I think this is, I had a good discussion about this the other day with, do you know Kev Mason, Keto Kev? He's got a group, and you might see him around. Do you know him?
Met him, but I've heard of him. He's someone that I know I need to go and look up.
Yeah, are you going to like some of these shows that are coming up? There's one in Bristol, one in London in May, I think.
I'll almost certainly go to the London one because, of course, that's where I am based. I'm actually going to Telford the day before the Bristol one. So I'm sort of thinking, how can I get to the Bristol one?
It's quite a long way out of the way, isn't it?
Yeah, but for me, it's not.
Well, I was going to say he'll be at the Bristol one, but then I don't think, because he lives in Germany, you might have seen him in the other ones. But yeah, what was I saying? What was I saying about Kev Mason? I'm sure there's a reason behind it. That was it. We're talking about the fact of food businesses and about keto on packet labels and stuff, and how actually one thing to ask there is also, if you've got a small business like my one, where it's been basically cooking for my family and for me and to be healthy, that's a very different kind of box good that if you're going to buy from, I won't name any conglomerates, but the big companies that effectively say, oh, hang on a minute, protein's in at the moment. Let's just put a little bit more protein, a bit of whey powder, and then we've got a high protein product. And now let's make it a keto product by taking a little bit of sugar out of it,
Well, I was talking to Aranda on this one a while back in I think possibly even your group, about, I actually think it's both a good thing and a bad thing that there are now mainline keto products. It's like a lot of the main slimming product people have started producing a keto thing. Firstly, because that then means there's a market for it. It is becoming mainstream, and that is therefore a good thing. But junk food is junk food, and it's not food, it's junk.
Yeah.
So the whole, we are now producing a product that is packed full of rubbish. Although some, I mean, look at the back of some of them, they aren't. It's that whole, I'd choose that if I had nothing else to choose. If I was out and about somewhere and I needed, it's like the Atkins shakes when they first came out. I look at that and go, if I've got no other choice, it's more optimal than a packet of biscuits or a sandwich or whatever, but I'm not going to choose it every day. It's the same sort of rule with all of the newer products now. I'm not going to choose it every day, but in a pinch, probably ain't going to kill me, but it ain't going to be, it's not food long term.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think you should always start keto personally from knowing how to cook and what food groups are what, and what's in your food on your plate. I think that's essential for everyone to start. I think when you're further down the track and you've got like less time or something, those things are options to have, aren't they? But to be fair, one thing I would say that really makes a huge difference to me is planning ahead with my food. So if the fridge is empty, this is what happened last night. I don't mind confessing this. It's not a confession because I'm not in trouble, but basically, Besma was at work. She was the only oncologist on duty in the hospital because everyone else had COVID, was on a course, and it was like, pretty intense. And it's her first proper on duty since her PhD. So she was like really like focused on getting it right. So she wasn't there. The kids were in sleep, so I can't leave the house. There's no food in the fridge whatsoever. I'm like, okay, I'll go and get a burger. So I ordered a delivery burger, and it came with the bun, and my intention was not to eat it, and I did, and I just felt awful. And then last night, this is the learning part. I had heartburn. I kept waking up feeling really funny about it. I mean, I think a lot of people eat a burger bun without even knowing they've done it. Of course, I used to as well. But I don't know if it's because I haven't eaten them for a long time, or I've got more of a sensitivity with age, or don't know what it was. I was in real pain, and I kept waking. I woke up really early this morning feeling like my gut was just not happy. And it's just been horrible. And I thought, and that's what I was saying earlier on, I'm going to own that thing happened. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I've actually owned up. I talk like I'm a naughty child.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not, exactly. I only ate a burger. I haven't robbed anyone. No. But it's a suboptimal choice that I've actually not enjoyed. Even if I had enjoyed it, I did at the time. But I mean, the post digestion and stuff has been awful. So I'm just I've got a steak in the fridge. Actually, it's just warming up nicely, ready for after this. And I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to break my fast this afternoon. I'd really enjoy that steak, and then tonight have some chicken or something, and just go a bit more carnivore, and just live that for a while, and that's it. I'm not going to sort of think to myself, "Oh, that dictates any decisions I make today," because I've decided what I want today. That meal doesn't decide what I want today.
No, the food is not in charge. You are in charge. Yeah. But when going back to a bit gut biome, one of the reasons you will have had heartburn and whatever is the fact that if you've not eaten bread for a long while, you've got no bacteria that can process it anymore. So your gut biome is going, what? Yeah. And of course, that then kicks off a whole bunch of stuff that when we eat that stuff at a low level all the time, the body effectively, the hormesis stuff kicks in. That's then gone. Well, we haven't done this for a while. I sort of remember how to do this, but I can't really. How do I cope with? And it's so the body is effectively remembering how it used to deal with it.
Isn't that interesting? I didn't realize that. So you have to be a little bit adapted through exposure to it to be able to digest it, which suggests that it's not a natural thing to digest as well. Then, right? I mean,
yeah, totally. It's not. Basically when you eat things that are, you can do it, but it's not great. Part of that is the bacteria that comes with it that helps you do it. We have what's called a pyrolytic gut, not a fermentative gut. We have one stomach, not many, and we don't have a hind gut. So we don't do the fermentation that other primates do because we just don't have it anymore. At some point back in the past, Homo sapiens decided we don't need to do that anymore.
It sounds like they had a meeting, like they all got around and said, let's phase this out in the next 10 years.
but through a series of whatever we were choosing to hunt and gather and stuff, evolution decided for us that we didn't need that anymore. So now we just have an appendix because that's what used to be a cecum.
Right.
And so we don't have the apparatus naturally to process grains. We just don't. We don't have the process to hold. It's why the argument for carnivore is so compelling. And at some point, I think I was speaking about this on Jackie's podcast about I know my body is happiest when I'm not putting any vegetation in it at all. And yet with what's going on with my life, and I know we wanted to talk a little bit about how both of our lives have been on fire this year. It's easier for me to just go having the joy of broccoli and chocolate and a bit of red wine and cabbage. And it's really weird. I speak with my low carb living group people about the food that brings me joy is literally now mushrooms and broccoli and things that you wouldn't think would be joyful at all. But and I laugh at myself because of course I've so totally replaced what represents food as comfort to me.
Yeah,
because I've been doing this so long. But it does make me giggle that, I'm really excited. I'm going to get some broccoli today.
That's amazing. You know what?
Think about 12-year-old me. It's like, she never would have done that.
Yeah. She'd be ashamed of you now, wouldn't she?
The
like,
cabbage inside the mashed potatoes at school so that I could actually eat it,
It's funny, though, when you change your baseline, things like that do change massively. So I love what Netta says in her podcast about how she used to reward herself with sugar for years and years. And that was like, her reward, her comfort, everything became a bit of chocolate, for instance. And actually, she had to retrain herself to realize actually a good walk in the snow with her family is a reward. And I really like that because it's like it's putting the power back into her hands again and saying you don't have to be victim of something that happened to you when you were 7, 8, 9.
No.
And that's how probably, I can't speak for her, but it's how probably our families have treated us and rewarded us with sugar. But that doesn't mean you have to let the pattern last forever. You can actually change that. And I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is, like, the more that you get into like carnivore and stuff, the more you do appreciate things like broccoli and whatnot as a little extra, because it is a really tasty, different texture suddenly, rather than we're so spoiled in the Western world to have anything whenever we want, that most people don't really appreciate what they're eating. And I think holding back from certain things and then having them occasionally is actually really quite a privilege then.
Well, if you think about what you have standardly carnivore, it's all soft and chewy, essentially, or basically you tear it, you don't crunch it.
Yeah, it's
and
a crunch. I totally agree.
If you think about the dentition we have molary stuff for grinding and crunching, and we have incisory stuff for ripping and tearing.
Yeah.
So that in itself is the argument for we did eat some vegetation. But we didn't eat we can't have eaten lots of it because of the construction we've got of our guts, which is much more sort of shorter and acidic and whatever. So definitely, I although I know I feel better not eating any plants at all, it's that whole. But I really love broccoli.
Well, I think there's a spectrum, and I think you're right. I think individually we come up and one side or the other, but also I think with evolution. So I'm going to do a little series on evolution, because I think, as it's my degree was archaeology and anthropology and mostly human evolution based. And I thought, it'd be really good to get out of the textbooks. I know they're a bit old now, but to do some, bring up my research up to date a bit more. And then later this year, at some point when I've got time, just sit down and record it, because quite often it's in your head and you just have to get it out, don't you? So that's what I'm going to do. But it's interesting going back through things and actually looking at, yes, we were completely vegan once. I want to say we, not really us. I mean, another species, Australopithecus, which isn't us, but was the
Australopithecus robustus.
Yeah, well, we know that died out completely, exactly. But there are the hominids at the time that we know around at that time who were pretty much vegan. And of course, the ones who then branched away from that to eventually become Homo erectus and us, that only happened because of meat eating. But those teeth would have probably been useful enough to still take with us. So they didn't evolve out of us, although we might not have been using them as much as grinders, but they just weren't, I suppose, having them didn't stop you eating meat. That's the thing. No. So you could say, well, we started off with those molars would have been all of our teeth. And as time's gone on, the more adapted to sharp tearing teeth at the front were the ones who then survived. And that's where that story's come from. Because evolution does that, doesn't it? It has these hang-ups that stay with us forever. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat vegetables. It's your choice. I'm not getting involved in anyone's choices. But for me personally, I find green leafy vegetables really work well. But for me, food has become much more about the meat, and that stuff's the extra lovely bit on the side.
Well,
the treat.
Evolutionary whatever. We've got what's called camera eye. But the way we evolved it is our retina pokes through it, and we've actually got a hole in the back of our retina where there is no light that falls, and our brain then fills it in. We should, if our brain didn't fill it in, we'd have this big black circle. Wow. Whereas the squids evolved a camera eye, but their optic nerve doesn't poke through their retina, so they have a full. Their camera eye is better evolved than ours is.
Wow!
Because the decisions that were made way back. Effectively made our camera eye have a better construction than theirs.
Isn't that interesting? Wow. Amazing.
And we are not related in terms of evolution at all. We branched incredibly early from where the squids are now. So we evolved these two mechanisms completely separately.
That is incredible. And it just shows you, doesn't it? The same planet Earth, very similar environments in terms of the light and whatnot, and so and just different routes that happen which work. That's all it is, isn't it? A lot of stuff had to die and not work for the very tiny percentage of stuff that did work, and it's coincidence that it's got a similarity or not with something else. I find that incredible. That's mind-blowing.
It's all about how accidental is it that we are here now. If you think about the amount of ancestors that effectively had to shag, and how many sperms met how many eggs.
That's not awkward, is it? Think about your parents and your grandparents going back.
The random chance of that particular egg meeting that particular sperm to make those particular people that then had that particular sperm and the utter random chance of us as individuals being here is so astronomical. It's so beautiful. And
yet
so
we complain
amazing.
about such minor things sometimes, and we should remember how lucky we are that we're alive and we exist. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I don't know what the actual odds would be, but I guess billions to one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even imagine going back millions of years, and yeah, that's just incredible.
Well, it's the whole argument: what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's actually
I know that.
egg.
It's the egg. Yeah, of course it is. Because
of reptiles.
there'd have been some animal that was less chicken-like, but still had an egg, and then another one that's even less chicken-like, going back and back and back until it's definitely not a chicken, but the egg's still there. Yeah. So you get all the answers to this podcast, everyone listening. I forget that they're listening. I feel like we're just chatting, but you know, the egg came first. If anyone asks you that, you've got the answer straight away. But I just think that if we understood evolution, we'd understand a lot more about us. And I think it's, as a society, I really think that in the future, they'll look back on this era and they'll say, you really were very odd. Like, you know, we know, for instance, we've got these belief systems, like we said, about the sort of guilt complexes we have, rather than the science. We have kind of like these very strong paradigms that exist around why we get fat. I mean, this book that I'm reading, and I won't say the author's name, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he was saying effectively, you know, he was making all the right arguments because I thought, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. This makes sense. And then it ended by sort of saying, so people are eating more calories and moving less. And I thought, whoa, hang on a minute. Where are we going with this? Like, you're literally just saying that we weren't eating these foods up until 10,000 years ago. From 10,000 years ago, everything started going wrong, and farming, he was saying, destroyed our health. We started having all these different issues happening. Then he said about type 2 diabetes rising, all this stuff. And his conclusion was that's because the food's much richer than it used to be, and we don't do as much as we used to. I was like, where the hell did you get that from? Like, you literally bought your belief at the end and stuck it on the whole thing.
But
it's annoying, isn't it?
That's the whole story about nutrition science. I love the way Gary Tobes put it. It's more like a religion than a science.
Yeah.
Because it has a central dogma that must be protected at all costs, defiant of logic and everything else.
And it's got a very low bar of entry, I think. Other science areas, I mean, because we all eat, so we all know that everyone's got an opinion, and so people go in with an opinion. But actually, I think other areas of science are so niche and specialist and different to you that you go in a bit more objectively, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you also can't do things like double-blind studies, and literally, because you can taste what you're eating, you know, you'd put it in and you'd know, so there's a whole bunch of things that we can't do to humans with their food that we can do with other things.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of epidemiological studies, which of course we know are where you start with science, not where you finish.
Yeah.
But they're being used as, well, this is where we finish. This is the proof.
Well, actually, that was exactly what he said in his book as well. He said, almost like a fact, he said, we know that obesity is strongly linked to diabetes. Almost, it wasn't quite saying, he was almost implying that it's the cause of. And I was like, correlation, causation. Come on, that's not good enough. It's not good enough.
That was one of the things, 2 years ago when Cancer UK did their obesity as a cause of cancer poster. And I was like, no, obesity isn't the cause. It is correlated with. And then there are other root causes that cause the big six. And sugar, I then did a blog about sugar being probably the main one. Sugar is the cause. Obesity is a correlation.
Yeah.
Because you are more likely to get cancer if you are fatter. And that is
because you've got the same underlying problem that's making both these problems. Yeah.
But it's that whole, well, why are you fatter? That we don't answer that question. Again, it goes back to the lazy, the sloth, you aren't active, you're eating too much, all the things that we believe as a society are the cause, which it's not.
Well, it's just like the same as saying you've got sunburn because you've got heat stroke. Heat stroke causes sunburn. And you'd know that's not true. You'd know, no, actually, both of those are caused by the sun.
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They look at the two symptoms and go, well, that symptom caused that symptom. And well, I know you know that, and I know that. It just drives me crazy, really. And it's still there. And it's weird how talking on the podcast to people and they explain their own story. I hear it again and again of people saying, doesn't matter how old they are. You know, I was doing this, it wasn't working. I changed, it worked for me. And ever since, they're getting it in the neck from friends and family saying, you're going to die of a heart attack or you're going to be in trouble. And they're like, but I'm healthier than they are now. And I feel amazing.
And no one ever worried when I was eating pizza all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they worry if I eat steak all the time.
Yeah. It's a real funny age we're in. Anyway, we could talk about that forever, but let's go on. So I was going to ask you a bit about your year and what you've been up to, because we made our series. Was it in August we made it, or September?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
It was a wonderful time, and I'm sure that someone below in the comments or wherever will tell us.
It was definitely like before. It was during the summer we started chatting about it. I remember that.
Yeah.
We made it at some point.
It might have been August, September time actually, because it came out around October time, didn't it? It was just. I know it came out before my birthday.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. Something like that. Yeah. So we did that series together, and I haven't really seen you since then. So what's been going on? I know you've won an award, so tell me all about that, please. What's been going on there?
Up on the ward here. We my group, Low Carb Living UK, won Nutrition Specialists of the Year in the Global Awards from Corporate Livewire for 21-22. So they've obviously
fantastic.
Did a bracket one.
You've got loads of awards there. Now, for people listening, like on the podcast only, not seeing the video, you've got a whole wall of awards. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I've got so Low Carb Living has won 2 awards now, and I've personally won 4 awards.
Amazing. That's incredible.
I'm best weight loss coach, Southeast London, nutritional coach mentor of the year.
Wow.
Most inspirational nutritional coach and mentor, best nutritional coach and mentor, and low carbohydrate nutrition specialist. So in terms
my comedy award doesn't really sort of match up to that.
Well, what it does is it really both vindicates my HOPE protocol, healthy, optimal, purposeful eating, with the 9 shifts that shift you to a low carb way of living, the 10 keys that unlock your mind, and the 3 secrets that guarantee your long-term success, which of course that last bit is the bit that people don't think about. And it's just the fact that the group program has won 2 awards on its own. That's amazing. Like, why can I not get everybody to join this right now?
So tell me about the program, because I'm not actually on your program, but I want to hear more about it. So how does it work? Is it like an online course, or is it more like you do actual teaching with people over something like Zoom or something?
So we do an email sequence that gives you the keys and the shifts and the secrets, because then anyone can join at any time, and they will get the information. They get the videos. You can keep it forever. They so need updating, because I did them in 2019, and some of them are a bit more sweary than others, because we all know I'm a tiny bit sweary myself anyway. And the first email you will get is, hello, I'm me, and I'm a bit sweary, and that's me.
Well, I think that's best to be yourself. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. So they get that as they're going, and then we do a weekly Zoom call, which we do a subject in. So last night's call was on dealing with chronic conditions. Next week we're doing intermittent fasting. We do like an exercise at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, to start planning out success. Then we do a breakout session so that people get to know each other, because of course one of the reasons why any group program works is because you all know each other, so you all know everybody's got each other's back.
Yeah, the tribe is essential, isn't it?
The tribe is essential. And then we do, what successes have you had, and that can be anything, not just food. Where do you need a hug, and do you need a kick up the bum? Because of course some people do need a bit of a kick up the bum, or they've had a crappy, awful time and they need some hugs. So we give them love and hugs, and we celebrate any successes. And we do that every week. And
so go to check then. So if I join the program in like November or April, say, I would get the email sequences, because that's just done on when I join. But the calls, they just carry on every week throughout the whole year, do they?
Yeah. So we've got a whole year of stuff that basically you if you stay in for the whole year, you'd start at the beginning again, effectively.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So if I start in April, you'll be in your own timetable for the whole year.
Yeah.
But then the November person would be like, you'd be then joining, they'd be halfway through that program, and then I might leave it. And I suppose not everyone goes to every session anyway. So you might go in the next year.
Yeah. But then the beauty of that also is, because we have a Facebook group, again, that community building, all of the calls go into the group.
Oh,
so
great.
There is someone who can never make the call, but catches it up religiously and comments on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that they're at least contacting
people around the world. The time zones don't work either, do they? Yeah.
Well, I've definitely aimed it at the UK people, because it's our food context and our stuff. So hence Low Carb Living UK. It's definitely us. I'm not objecting to having other people, although dealing with the tax might be interesting. But in terms of where it is, everybody's in the UK, so we all know what we're all talking about. And it's at 7:00 in the evening on Tuesday. So because that suited me, quite frankly, and I'm the only one that actually needs to be there.
Yeah, and you have to be there every week. So if it's your commitment, you have to make it work for your life. That's amazing. So what about like actual in-person meetups? Have you done it or planning to do anything like that?
So at some point, and I know we've actually talked about let's have a big conference.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
In terms of us, we've definitely gone. My big plan for Low Carb Living UK is to have a meeting, not with me, because there's no way I can get to 48 meetings in a week, but training up people, hence my Nutritional Coach Mentor of the Year award, training up group leaders that then facilitate their own meetings around the country.
Right. That's a great idea.
So in terms of that, just growing it and becoming effectively the default diet club in the UK and killing off the, quite frankly, faulty competition. That's my grand plan.
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, I totally agree. It's not a competition in a way, because it's just it's a not diet plan, is it? That they're giving. They're just giving misery, and then they can buy their products as well, which supposedly help you. So that's incredible. I think I can imagine that with something like that, you've got to be so careful that you don't just like always have, like you said about having group leaders, because you can only stretch yourself so far, can't you? It's a lot. It's a big commitment you have there to every week.
Well, my aim is essentially to take this. The way I set that business up is that I can take myself out of it effectively, because because it's me and because there's only sort of 25 of us at the moment, I am in it and I am doing it. But the aim is to have groups of 150 people with one group leader in 48. One in each county is my initial target.
Yeah.
So there'll be 48 group leaders around the country, and then that just grows and grows and grows, and then as it does happens. Effectively I then come out of it. We start employing people to do the IT and make the materials and do all the things you do with a funky business. But right now, where it is me, you've got me.
That's amazing. So actually the people who are on it now might become the leaders of the future. Actually,
that's part of my aim, I'm hoping.
I think the other thing that's going to be interesting with that as well is that my staff is quite small. It's about it's 5 people. So at the moment we all know each other incredibly well. If there's a problem with somebody, we know that pretty much instantly. You can try and like make sure they're okay, and it's a lovely dynamic because it's just nice to have a small number of people. But I've been told that there's that sort of tipping point where you get to a size where cliques can form and you get different groups of people, and not one big, because it's impossible after over like 100 people. You can't just all be that close to each other, each other that well, can you? You just break into small groups.
That's why I chose 150 members maximum for a group, because that's what's called Dunbar's number, and Dunbar's number is exactly this, where people start splitting up. And when a tribe gets bigger than 150 people, it will normally, and then a bit of it will then go off and be another tribe, essentially. So the reason I picked 150 is Dunbar's number.
I didn't know that. So Dunbar's the scientist or the statistician or somebody.
Yeah, and it was literally the observation of, when a tribe gets to around 150, once it gets a lot bigger than that, the lot bigger bit, like 20 or 30 people, will just go, no, don't like this, and they'll be off somewhere else.
Yeah, and they get a new fulcrum of like what they want to talk about, what they want to do. Brilliant. I love that. That's really good. I think that's really exciting what you're doing there. And I think as people become more aware of this, they do need to be educated. And I also think, I think GPs are amazing what they do, but our system is to pick up the problems that they happen and try and put them, like trying to fix them. And I do honestly see there's a route for kind of coaching to help people just to have a healthier lifestyle, which hopefully means that they don't need that picking up AA type rescue when they go, and they break down. And I just think that I can see there's a big future for that. And I think in China, there's more of a sort of a view of medicine being preventative anyway. But if you look at let's be honest, some of the biggest developments in our health has not even been medical. It's been public health related. If you think about the sewage systems in the 19th century, or, cleaning up the streets, getting rid of manure from cities, all those things, and then disease rates going down, all preventative stuff. And I think individually we could do that as well and be a lot happier and healthier.
An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, using old metric. But also talking about that, and you mentioned coaching, one of the things I also give, which I know no one else in the group space is doing, is everyone gets a 15-minute coaching call once a month.
Wow,
and you can talk about anything and you can get a lot done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's a use it or lose it. So if you haven't used it that month, you don't get to carry it over. But everybody also gets to do, if I don't want to talk about this in group, you can talk to, at the moment, me, but the aim is to talk to the group leader. So that's, again, the other reason for 150 is that's about as many people as you could deal with to do a one-to-one relationship with in a month.
Yeah, that's a lot of time, actually, I suppose, isn't it?
It's a lot of time for them.
Yeah.
But it's also then encouraging people of making sure that they are dealing with their own problems that they might not want to talk about. But it's also like, literally last night, I've encouraged someone that hadn't been along for a while and said, look, you need to book in your 15 minutes. She said, can we talk about anything? I said, yes, we can talk about whatever you need to be coached on, because life is life.
Yeah.
Food is part of life. So it's all connected.
It's funny you say that. So I'm part of a program for business owners at the moment. So different to low carb, but obviously it's my business, so it relates to it directly. And on this form, I had to talk about all the things about my business, and I just naturally was making it sound good. I mean, it was obviously good stuff, but they were like, so what do you need help with? And I'm like, well, you haven't even asked me about all of this stuff. And they're like, oh, right, yeah. Because it's like that, isn't it? Like, you know, there's some things you need help with, and you're like, I don't know how to ask for help. Is it appropriate, or should I bring this up? But actually, I believe more and more the older I get, you should just ask for help with everything if you need it. You know, find the right person and use their experience and expertise. That's, you know, that's how we learn.
I have a post-it notes are the best self-help tool ever. And again, for the people that are seeing, I have post-it that says it is safe for me to ask for help.
Yeah.
But one of the jobs of a coach is to, the saying is, the presenting problem is never the actual problem.
Right.
So what is it? But actually, it's this thing over here that they don't want to think about or acknowledge or whatever.
Yeah.
So a coach's job is, as you say, to get you to the point of, well, yeah, actually, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to, because it's going to be painful, or it's going to hurt, or I just don't want to think about it. But the job of a coach is effectively to allow you the safe space to start dealing with that rubbish.
Yeah, and actually it's the objectivity, isn't it? So so these guys I work with, they were like, why can't you do that? And it's like, because of this. Well, what's wrong with that then? Oh, this thing over here doesn't work because of that. So if you sort of this, and this, that would then mean that you could do that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, like, you know, you're so stuck in it all the time. And actually as well, it's a bit like a cold. I totally agree with what presents is not necessarily the problem. I was thinking how when you've got a virus, the virus probably doesn't actually make you feel ill at all, but your body's reaction to the virus does make you feel ill. Yeah. Rising your body temperature to try and kill the virus. You know, you would die eventually, I suppose, of a virus if your body did nothing. But it's actually the reaction you're feeling. And I thought about that emotionally, and I thought, I do have that. You know, I'm not a particularly anxious person, but sometimes the worry of something is far worse than reality. It's my reaction to it. And actually that's the bit I can manage. So if I just try to manage me, and then I can step back from my feelings a little bit, then I can be a bit more objective about what the problem is.
Yeah, we are trained that how we react to something, we don't have a choice about that. But we are always choosing. But if you aren't consciously choosing, the backside of your brain is picking the last thing that you did that was a bit like this, and that's how we're going to react.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you start thinking about, well, actually, that might not be appropriate. How else could I deal with this? You start looking at your own default patterns and going, well, yeah, actually, that's a bit of a crappy pattern there. And start changing them. And then the patterns, although they will always still be there, they sort of get a bit more quiet. And you know, well, yeah, I can choose. It's like when we want to comfort ourselves with food, I could choose to go and buy a pint of ice cream, or I could choose to go and buy avocados and prawn sauce. So I get the choice. I'm still using the same addiction patterns. And that's another whole podcast entirely about food addiction and how we react to that. But I know I'm not harming myself if I make a more optimal choice, even as I'm still soothing the addiction. And at some point, I know I need to work on actually ditching the behavior totally.
Yeah.
But again, where I am right now, self-soothing is part of what I'm doing. And that's steak and avocado and prawns and broccoli and all the things that are nourishing my body, at least.
Love it. Love it. So where are you going to go next with this then? What's your plans for, I know this isn't the new year, it's only a new podcast year, but you know, what's your plan for the next 12 months roughly?
The plan for the next 12 months is definitely building Low Carb Living UK. With what's going on in my life. So I've got my mum who has dementia. She's been diagnosed now, but the struggle to get that was endless.
Yeah.
Especially with also what else is going on in her life around. She had a massive flood, so dealing with all the insurance for her has taken up a lot of time. And because of that as well, I then took my mind off the marketing. So my client base went down. So I've now got myself a job for a while, pick up an IT contract, what I used to do, and really skilled in it. It's awesome. So my thing is then focusing on, well, how can I serve as many people as possible with they get value and I get value? And so that means concentrating on Low Carb Living UK, building it so that it is as best it can be and become something that effectively I then step out of and I only do what I need to do, which then leverages the other bits of me that are really good around managing people and doing all the things I enjoy, as well as coaching and creating programs and wonderful with that. So that's my focus this year is effectively building that membership to be the best it can be.
Fantastic. That's great. Because I think it's important, that, isn't it? If it's your passion project and you love doing it, it's just amazing when it's working. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I think if anyone's listening who's interested in that, where could they find out and where would they go to sign up?
They would go to lowcarbliving.uk.
Fantastic. That you've
I
heard it
like
here.
The simple names. It's easy.
Oh, no, I think you should do what it says on the tin and make it really easy. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
It's also on Facebook as Low Carb Living UK, and it has an Instagram that I rarely post on and various other bits and pieces. But yeah, you can, if you want to go and sign up directly, https://lowcarbliving.uk. You could also come and find me, Nicola Howard, on the socials and ping me a message if you want to ask me some more questions, which of course is more than welcome. And we can have a conversation there as well. But yeah, if you think, oh my God, this sounds amazing, I'm in, just go to that web link, click. You've got two options to sign up week to week or as a yearly membership, and come on in.
Excellent. Well, I've just got another question for you, actually. And I thought I wouldn't ask this of everyone, but I will ask this of you. What have you learned in the last 12 months that you can share with me? Because you know so much. So what have you learned in the last 12 months? And it could be a personal thing. It could be an actual factual thing, whatever it is. What in the last 12 months has come up for you that you'd be willing to teach me or teach our listeners today?
Self-care is not optional.
Okay.
Friends are not optional. Asking for help is not optional.
Sorry, when you say friends are not optional, you mean you can't have friends, or you really have to have friends?
You need to have the friends that are around.
Friends are not an option. Get rid of them.
Not having friends is not an option. Is a better thing. It's that whole, I know I could not have survived the last year without the friends that have got my back. It's like at the weekend, I needed to go and clear Mum's kitchen because we hadn't planned to do any work in the kitchen. And then all of a sudden it needs rewiring. But it was all of a sudden 6 weeks ago, and I didn't think about, well, we haven't packed the kitchen up until Wednesday last week. So I rang my best mate and said, help. And she came over Sunday with one of her sons, who is a big, strong boy. And I'd got a friend who'd popped over there Friday, and they'd done a bunch of packing. We finished it off. We cleaned it up so that this Monday, the electricians have gone in and they've started doing it. But it's that whole, I've got friends that have got my back, and they give me what I need when I need it. So that not having friends and not having a support network is not, it's like, no, you need it in your life. You actively need to maintain those relationships. You need to maintain the relationship with yourself. You need to sleep and eat nutritionally wonderfully and go out in the sun and look after yourself. Self-care is not selfish in the traditional dictionary sense. It is intensely selfish because it nourishes yourself. And I'm on a bit of a mission to rehabilitate the word selfish this past year as well. You need to look after yourself. You need to do the self-care. And as I say, not asking for help. You have to ask for help. We can't do everything on our own. Yeah,
love that. Yeah. I think it's interesting how I think in our society in the West, we have a very individualistic focus, don't we, in our sort of politics and our societies.
Yeah.
I think that's not a bad thing in terms of individuals' rights and an individual's, ability to choose what they do in their life is a really thing to celebrate. However, we're not islands cut off from each other. We're not atomized like, certain politicians of the past have said. But actually, we do need to depend on each other and be depended upon. And I think that's where we can grow. And I think one thing that I've been thinking about this last year is sometimes the most loving thing we can do is not the same as the happiest thing we can do. So I fear that sometimes in our societies, especially post America and the actual Declaration of Independence about like we're all entitled to happiness effectively and pursuit of liberty. Well, liberty definitely, but I think actually sometimes doing loving things is not about our happiness, but thinking of others and making sure that they're okay, even if that does harm ourselves a little bit, not to the extent of damaging ourselves. I think we have to love ourselves too, but it's not the same thing being loving to people and accepting love and forgiveness from other people too. And I think that's a huge thing that we all need to have in our lives and acknowledge.
Well, there's the human need for contribution. Maslow's one of the needs we have as humans is to make a difference, to give. But you can't give if you never receive. But we are taught never. No, I don't need it. I don't need that. It's fine. Whereas if you accept someone's help, you are helping them with satisfying their need for contribution. They actively need to help you. So the best thing we can all do as humans is satisfy each other's need for contribution.
Yeah, love it. So ask for help from people. There you go. You're going to be inundated with requests after this. So you said...
I very much hope so.
So can you come round to my house and...
Also, I've actually had people say, can you come round and do my cooking for me? And it's like, not really. Well, I can if you pay me a lot of money, because I'm quite good at cooking. But no, not generally.
But if it's in Edinburgh, I think the commute's going to kill it for us all. It's not work. Well, thank you for coming back for the second year.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Let's sing it properly. Come on there, Dan.
Podcast.
Happy birthday to you. And I've got some cakes here, which I was taking photographs of earlier. This wasn't planned ahead, so they're a little bit stale now, so maybe I won't eat those. There's some lovely DGF cakes that have been here for a week while I've been photographing them, so they've seen their better days. But there we go. We celebrated with a bit of cake as well. So thank you, Nikola. I think this is the earliest invitation I've ever issued. Can you come back for the third birthday, please?
I'm sure that we can fit that in.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I don't know what the show will look like by then. It might have changed. It might be the same. But I just think the way I'm going to look at this is I try and approach everything like this. Be the most generous you can and just put something out there and see what happens. And if that goes on forever, if it stops, whatever. And just see what happens. So, listeners, you heard it here first and probably many times before. I'm just going to see what happens with the show and time commitments. And if people still want it and I'm still enjoying it, it'll still keep going. So we have to see what happens. But come back on the third episode, the third year, and we'll see what's happened in our lives in that time. That'll be exciting.
And I'm sure I'll be back before then anyway, because there is loads of stuff. There's always loads of stuff we can talk about.
Definitely. All right then, Nikola. Well, you take care. Have a great weekend. All right.
See you later. Bye.